Welcome to the Consciously Connected podcast.
We're so excited to have you on this episode number 55. We're going to dive into how your frequency actually creates and is the manager of everything in your life. And, we have been on let's see, it's been about 4 or 5 weeks hiatus from the podcast, from not necessarily our work, but we took the last several weeks and really dove into life, and we dove into vacations. We went on a week-long beach vacation with our family. Me and Jim had some little sabbaticals here and there. We went to a concert out of town. We wound up going through a medical procedure of my own that wound up having some positive results, thank goodness. And then we went on our week long July 4th trip to our lake house with our family as well. So it has been weeks of traveling, of navigating family, kids being home for summer, tackling some personal things that we needed to accomplish in our home. And it's been pretty amazing. And when we look back at all of it, there's so much that comes through for us. And we were having a conversation about that. And we thought this would be a great episode to really dive into on, making sure and fostering your own frequency, your own health, your own mental, physical, and spiritual, you know, s- grounding, health, prioritization, so that every other area of your life works and fuels you and feels aligned. And so we're going to dive into that and give a little bit on this episode, not only like insights that we've gained and some things that we've been talking about, but also like our own personal journeys and how, when we let our health go, or when we have things going on with our health, or when we have things going on in our personal life that needs some tending to when it comes to energy and frequency, how that impacts everything.
Yeah, 100%. And, I'm probably a poster child of the health part at least, because
Yeah.
when my health is off, and I'm not saying like ill, but not taking care of my body, not eating right, not moving, I become pretty hard to deal with. And I become disconnected from about everything in my life. I become disconnected from relationships. I become disconnected from business. And I try to force myself into things outside of taking care of my health first. And in it, I end up running myself into the ground. And I know I did this for a while. I got hurt back in October, I think it was. I tore my
Yeah.
pec. And so out of fear, I didn't work out a lot. And I was talking to Jocelyn maybe 2, 3 weeks ago. I think we were at the beach, and I was like, yeah, I haven't worked out but maybe 20 times in the last 6 months, which I work out 20 times a month usually, or 30 times a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it was like this complete disconnect, but it also played a lot into, it was time for me to work on myself, past working on my body, get to work on my spiritual side, got to work on my mental side a lot, worked on my business a lot. We worked in our relationship a good bit. Uh, as we grow in our life, different time, different seasons require different priorities. And I think, we've kind of gotten to a place now where, hey, this part of our life needs to take precedent in order for us to have the life that we desire.
Yeah, I think we can all, like, if you're listening to this, you probably at some point in time feel like that you are all in, focused on maybe one or two areas of your life that you're trying to up level, or that you're trying to be successful in, or that you're trying to shift. And when there's one area that's feeling very difficult or painful or challenging, it's like we can go all in on that area. Or it could be not difficult and challenging, or it can just be like the area that's lighting you up the most, or the one that you feel the most like your focus and your energy is going to. And at different points in our lives, that has looked different across the board. I mean, it's been either like, okay, we're all in on our business and we have all these ideas and we're lit up on fire and we want to like serve the world, and we're, in this space where it's just like go, 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 go. And then it consumes us. And then it becomes our every waking moment. And then it becomes the threading of even the foundation of our relationship and all that we talk about and all that we are, and then it takes over us pouring into our personal growth and development, or like, hey, like instead of going to the gym or going to do these things and having balance, it's like, I need to work, I need to show up for this, I need to do that, or we put our calendars and we fill them to the brim. And although all of it's positive in the sense of we're super happy, we love what we're doing, we love what's happening and going on there, it's almost like, okay, but there's no balance over here. We start neglecting our health, we start neglecting our relationship, we start
Yep.
neglecting things that we kind of put on the back burner, and then that eventually starts bleeding into the results in our business, us
Yeah.
feeling burnout or on fire still in what we're doing, us feeling depleted
Yeah.
versus feeling, like it's serving us. And that's also the same when we were really like struggling in our relationship years ago. And that was the sole focus. And we were all in on like focused on what we could do, healing our wounds, how we were triggering each other, constantly like hypervision of each other and moving in that way. And then we let our business, or I did specifically. I know at that point in time you didn't really have 100% of business yet, but
Yeah.
you let your work at that time slide, and we would just put it like on the back burner. And I was like, all my focus was going towards quote unquote saving our relationship, that I didn't feel like showing up. I didn't have any energy to give clients. I completely dimmed my light because I was like, I'm not in perfection. I'm not in a good place. And so it's like we can allow certain times and moments for something, some area of our life to gain all of our energy and focus.
Hmm.
And one thing that we've often realized is one of those things is our health and putting our self priority, our self care. And when we do that and we don't prioritize our energy and our frequency and our body and our health, then everything else kind of gets impacted.
Yeah, 100%. And I call this like being an over leveraged person. Like, and I'm usually the king of over leveraging work. Like I'll work until I bleed, but like you said, it eventually it bleeds into your relationship. It bleeds into your physical health. It bleeds into taking care of you. It bleeds into being present with other people, with your family. It bleeds in, it'll even bleed into your business. Like being so hyper focused on being active or being so hyper focused on making it happen that you fill your calendar up with a lot of activities, but nothing ever gets done. And you end up doing all these activities, thinking about all these activities, stressing yourself out, overwhelming yourself, and never really pouring back into the person doing the thing. And because of that, you start to pull that person away from other areas of their life, whether it be their relationships, their health, whatever. And what we've realized is like we're only as good as the person we bring to any place, right? We're only as good. And if we're not taking care of our health, we're not taking care of our mental, our spiritual, our physical, we're not pouring into the person we're taking into places, then the person is going to be burnt out. The person that we give everywhere else is probably not going to be a full-fledged version of ourselves. We're going to be under leveraged in a lot of areas of our life. And so we've really gotten back to this root thing over the last month when we've been kind of away from it all. We've kind of realized like, hey, we've been over leveraged. I know I have in work, and I gave up working out. Like I tore up my pec, and then I retore my bicep like 2 months ago. Had some kind of crazy shit called piriformis syndrome happen to me, and I just don't. Johnson, I'm like, I'm fucking done. I'm frustrated. I'm getting old. I feel like I'm falling apart, and
Mhm.
in that moment, I decided to work all the time, and in that working all the time, I got more miserable. I got more energetically depleted. I became more distant. I became less focused on all the other things in my life. And what I realized is like, in order to have the life that I desired, then all parts of me have to be touched on a daily basis. And it's not this, I need to do 32 things for myself every day. It's how do I touch parts of me that take me this way so I can put that out into the world every day.
Yeah, and I know we talk a lot about like obviously being a conscious woman and a conscious man. And then shifting that energy to being a conscious queen or a conscious king in our life and leading ourselves. And part of that, we talk a lot about those dynamics in our relationship and our business, but what we don't sometimes don't realize, and if you're a high achieving person, you might find yourself like getting so secular focused in like this tunnel chamber of like success, and I got to do this and I got to move this way, and in that, like, not like almost treating your body, your health, your frequency like a side project, and one that is like a hobby that like you do every now and then, where it's
Yes.
like, yeah, and it's like really looking at and realizing that when you start putting your own self on the back burner to get a thing or to change a situation outside of yourself, you ultimately are putting, yes, a lot of focus, a lot of energy towards something outside of yourself. But in the process, your own battery, your own self is depleting.
Hmm.
And when we are depleting, our energy and our frequency ultimately is attracting the thing outside of ourselves. And so if we are trying to go, 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 go and change something outside of ourselves, then it's like we have to look at the person doing the thing and who we're being doing the thing, because ultimately that is the frequency of what is actually creating outside of ourselves. And if we treat ourselves like a side project, or we treat ourselves like the hobby we maybe will get to and it'll feel good in the moment, then we're actually setting ourselves up for mid to low results in those areas. It's like when we put our health, we put our self-love, and we put ourself on the back burner to overgive in our relationships or to serve our partner and our family and our kids, or to go all in on certain aspects of our business. When you do this, your frequency actually is diminished.
Yeah.
And those people wind up getting half versions of you, or a
Hmm.
fraction version of the person that you could be. And so conscious leadership of self starts with how you're serving your own mental physical health and
Yes.
how you're serving your own energy. And
I
we've
agree.
noticed that. Go ahead, baby. Did you have
I just
something
said
you
I
wanted to say
agree
to that?
1,000%. But yeah,
Yeah.
I wanted to say that like what I found, and I want you to continue, but what I found in those moments when we start to serve the world without serving ourselves, we become dependent upon the world to make us feel better. And we end up over
Yeah.
serving everybody and getting underserved in the process.
Yeah. And it's like, when you're over serving something outside of yourself, trying to get that thing energy to do what you want it to do, or to change the way you want it to change, or to shift the way you want it to shift, and you're not giving that energy to yourself, those things don't actually change, because our external reality is simply a reflection of our internal state of being. Our external attraction, our manifestation, our the way that we co-create with the universe to bring things to us ultimately is created through the frequency of which we are operating in. And the more your battery goes down, the more those areas don't actually get the full version of you. And so, when we think about conscious leadership and being a conscious queen or a conscious king in your life, one of the things that I think we often bypass is, am I leading myself, putting myself, fueling my energy, prioritizing my energy at the highest level, so that then I am automatically a magnet for, and I'm a match for the things that I'm out here trying to get, change, and do. And for us both, we had to look in the mirror and say, we're not prioritizing 100% everything we could be doing to optimize our energy, whether that be, nutrition and nourishing your body properly, whether that be water, whether that be sleep, whether that be exercise and movement, whether that be your, morning routines where you're in self-love practices and journaling and loving on yourself, whether that mean, regulating your nervous system, and allowing yourself to down regulate from these high levels of focus, stress, being in fight or flight all the time. Are you serving your energy to then maximize those areas? because it will impact everything. It impacts our
Yes.
relationship, it impacts our sex life, it impacts our business and our money and the energy we're able to exert. And and if you don't feel good, nothing in your life is going to be good. You could even build your business to the highest levels of success, or meet the love of your life. But if your health is suffering, or if you're not in a good mental place, none of those things you actually get to enjoy. They're just things. And
Yes.
so when we treat ourselves like the highest temple of who we are and who we're meant to be, and we fuel that frequency, then we get to actually be present, alive, passionate, on fire in these other areas of our life. And that energy then creates more from those spaces.
100%. It's becoming the example of the life you want to live, right? You can everybody can say they want to build $1 million business, but what kind of person are you going to bring to that business? Is it going to be an unhealthy, dysregulated, can't enjoy the abundance of what they've created, the empire that they've been working on, can't enjoy the relationship that they want to be a part of, can't enjoy their kids as they grow up and evolve because you're so hyper focused on creating this thing, but you're so under focused on who am I being as an example to this thing. And it's one thing that I know me and you talk about a lot is like we have to be the thing that goes before everything else, meaning we have to love ourselves selfishly so we can love the world, each other, our family selflessly, right? And we have to put focus on ourselves. We have to take care of ourselves. We have to be the example of the life we're trying to live. We can't say we want this fun, exciting, adventurous, prosperous, abundant life when we're treating ourselves so poorly, when we are not showing up and putting money in our own bank every day, where we aren't putting in money into our relationship bank, we're not taking care of our mental health, and we're expecting the world to give us something we're not willing to become. And we realize, like, over the last few months, I started to realize just for myself, and I know me and Jocelyn have talked about a ton for herself, is like, I realized, like, yeah, all this is great. The business is amazing and all that's fine, but I'd rather be healthy. I'd rather feel good in my own body. I'd rather like have the energy and vitality every day to enjoy all this shit rather than be so overworked and under under just undersatisfied because
Yeah.
you're pouring into one bucket all day long and then no buckets are pouring back in because you're not taking time and you're not being an example for other people to take time. And so we decided like, hey, we got to get back into balance within ourselves so that we don't over leverage different parts of our life and underserve a lot of parts of our life.
Yeah. And, obviously, we both have been on our own individual journeys with our health, and you've obviously had to navigate the injuries, and I've been navigating perimenopause and hormone shifts and things that I have like diagnoses in around my health, and like serving those things, whether it be SIBO and my digestive situation, whether it be metabolic dysfunction, whether it be all these things with hormonal shifts and changes,
Yeah.
my body not necessarily performing at optimal levels. And I have a lot of clients, that are also navigating this and the month and different levels of, where you're at and how you feel. And also running a business or running a family, and also trying to be somebody who still is in her feminine radiance, and wanting to be physically intimate and emotionally intimate with her partner, and to not be a raging biatch, um and so it's like all these things we can look at, and it's like, man, there's so much on the plate. And the person in doing those things, if you're not getting the divine support you need, if you're not putting yourself a priority, if you're not putting your health at the forefront and fueling yourself, then all of these things get way harder and they get way
Yes.
more intense. And I know for a long time, and we've talked about this too, like the levels of stress and the levels that we are, you know, at this day and age in time, we're on our phones 24/7. You're constantly stimulated, you're constantly kind of triggered by things, you're depleted in your energy. We're not taking time to be intentional and forward our energy and focus into um, you know, places that we're putting in boundaries. We're putting ourselves at the priority of taking care of our mental and physical health. And so there's some things that we started recognizing, that was impacting our own energy, our own space, and the stress levels that we were just kind of became accustomed to, but we're constantly like running. And when you are stressed out and you aren't noticing and regulating your nervous system, it's going to show up in every area. And we talk a lot about nervous system regulation in relationships and getting triggered and, being in a space where your nervous system is really the core of leading everything in your life. And this is no different. It's like where your nervous system is when it comes to the amount of stress that you're allowing yourself to stay in, to
Hmm.
keep pushing through, to not be conscious and intentional about taking time for yourself, taking time to pour into your body and frequency, taking time off of social media and connection, real connection with your partner, with your kids. And we did a lot of that these past few weeks. And we put a lot of this into the forefront.
Yeah, I agree. I think
And
it's
yeah,
so like that right there. And I wanted to circle back to the perimenopause and menopause time periods. I was thinking about this morning. Don't know where the thought come from. I'm glad you brought it up, but um, I was thinking like, a lot of times people use this time period in their relationship to disconnect from one another. And I think what we've done is we've used this time period to become better for one another because it's, in order to support your wife going through perimenopause, you have to become more diligent in your own emotional intelligence. You have to become more diligent in your groundedness. You have to become more diligent in your communication and leadership. You have to become more diligent as a husband, as a man, as a leader. And the same goes for women when men are going through their little menopause, midlife crisis time period, where women have to, be more diligent at being wives and not and understand their husbands and try to get to know where they're going and why they're wanting to go there, so they can not grow apart during this time period, because this is the time period where it grows apart because not all the things that you fell in love with are there, right? The sweet, kind, and nurturing and not always there. The intimacy might not always be there. The romanticism might not always be there. There might be a lot of stress. There might be a lot of hormones flying all over the place. There might be a lot of up and down the ladder emotionally. That doesn't mean the relationship has to disintegrate. That means that we work harder on the people, putting the relationship together, holding it together, supporting and showing up for one another. I think I hear so many guys talking about, well, my wife's doing this. I think it's time for me. I said, no, it's time for you to grow the fuck up. It's time for you to show the fuck up and become a bigger man so you can hold this together. Right. This is the time
yeah.
of need. Like we all go through our seasons where we may need more from the other than we can give.
Hmm.
And that means that doesn't mean we get to leave because they need us more. That means that we grow a little stiffer back and we ground down into the earth and we become the men or the women that we need to be to support our partner. But that also requires you, and this goes along with this podcast, like you have to be the best version of yourself. If you are so hyper focused at work and your wife's falling apart at home and you're not even paying attention to anything, you're
Yeah.
just kind of like off in la la land, you're going to create a disconnect because you're not focused in on the full dynamic of your life, because your dynamic is not what you do. Your dynamic is who you're being while you're doing life. And if you're not paying attention to that version of you, a lot of part of your life falls by the wayside.
Yeah, and we obviously we could do a whole nother episode on you're drinking some ice over there. I hear it. You're drinking
Mhm.
something.
I had to. I just got back from the gym a little while ago.
But yeah, if you're not, recognizing the states of change, that bring forth new levels of being, then there are spaces that this winds up mm, impacting all areas. And so obviously perimenopause, midlife crisis in men, like when you're especially when you're in these kind of times of spaces together, it's so important to start prioritizing yourself, but do it from a place where you're also not disconnecting from life and putting everything into that area either. And we can get so caught up in that too, where it's like, okay, we're in this place, like I'm in perimenopause or I'm in midlife crisis, or I'm going to prioritize myself and I'm going to bring all my energy back to me and I'm going to move in that space. And so it's like you can also put too much there from that mindset and then not connect with your partner on it. And there's more and more disconnect that happens, not listening to your partner about what they're going through in this space physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, even. Like these are
Yeah.
times in both of our life where massive shifts are happening internally and massive things are coming up where there's like this rec is like reclaiming who you truly are to a degree.
Mhm.
Also like, holy crap, there's all these hormonal changes and things going on, and prioritizing your health to move through those powerfully, prioritizing what's coming up and being able to then still utilize your relationship as a foundation to connect on those things, to be inquisitive about each other, to help each other and support each other to be those best versions of yourself, but not neglect yourself or the relationship
Yes.
or, your purpose. And so it's like there is a way to have these things balanced. And if you recognize that you're stressed out and you're allowing that stress to go unmanaged and you're allowing it to fuel, whether it be the stress that you're having in your relationship, the stress you're having in your business or money or your purpose or your job, the stress that you are having when it comes to your body and your health. It's like leaving those things unmanaged and not regulating yourself and not allowing that to be something that you foster with yourself and with your partner. Then you do a disservice because we could easily take these moments where we're struggling, to a degree in our own selves when we're navigating these things where it's like you're navigating being hurt and feeling old and the feelings of like I can't do what I used to do in the gym and I can't get in there like I did and that was your therapy and you're navigating what it feels like to feel quote unquote broken in your body and what is happening kind of vibes and not being able to release in that way. And then I'm
Mhm.
over here navigating perimenopause and my hormones shifting and feeling wackadoodle half the time and emotionally not myself and dealing with all these symptoms and not feeling on fire and feeling like things are changing, not understanding myself and navigating, health things. And we could take those moments and need something from each other or need each other to be who we used to be or need each other to serve where we're at and see us and understand us in these things and pour into us and then at the same time hold someone to expectations, judgments, accountabilities of those moments rather than using those moments to learn each other more, to be more emotionally intimate, to just want to hear and not necessarily understand because there's no way that I can understand you and where you're at and all that. There's no way you can understand me and where I'm
Mm-mm.
at in all of this. But it's just like having that care to come and understand each other and to help each other in the ways that we can and support each other. And sometimes you have to take ownership as a conscious queen and a conscious king energy. You have to take obviously ownership of yourself, but you also have to take ownership of where you're giving your partner the window to support you, and giving
Yes.
your partner that space, an allowance to know how to support you. And we've gotten really good at that, of asking of each other, when we may need something, or even intuitively when you see your partner struggling, instead of judging them or needing them to be something for you or holding expectations in those moments. It's like sometimes just saying, "Hey, I see you're struggling. What's going on? I see you're depleted. I see your energy's down. I see," like, and be very inquisitive, and having that, and allowing yourself to co-regulate and pour into yourself and each other, really magnifies your relationship in the process.
Yeah, and ladies, if you say that to your husband and they're like, "Oh, I'm good, nothing's wrong, I'm not feeling anything," they're feeling a lot. So just keep asking, and it's the consistency of them seeing like you cared enough to pay attention to what they're going through that they will open and just be that safe space for them. I know Jocelyn comes to me and says, "What's going on? I can tell you're down. I can see your energy." I'm like, "I'm good." She goes, "Bullshit. Tell me." I'm like, "I'll tell you when I get ready to tell you." She goes, "You're going to tell me now." I'm like, "No, I'll tell you when." But eventually I just get it out. But, and a lot of times women get frustrated because their men are so close to their vests, and they keep everything. They play their cards very like secretly. But they want to talk and they want to get it off their chest. They have so much self-judgment about the way they feel about themselves. They have so much self-judgment about being lonely within their own mental capacity. Like, going through this time period, I think the hardest part for me, and I have a wife and I have a kid and I serve hundreds of men all around the world, I still feel lonely because I can't get the things out of me that I'm used to getting out. And I've tried in multiple ways, but working out or moving my body is the only way that I feel where I can just completely release and let go and feel free to be mentally clean and clear. And, not being able to for such a long period of time or limiting myself out of fear, because I did that a lot too. I was lonely and I didn't know how to express that to Jocelyn sometimes. I didn't know how to, and it makes you emotional, and you don't know who to turn to. But if you look right in front of you, you have your teammate, you have your best friend, you have the person who's willing to do life with you, who's your ride or live. And if they're willing to listen, you got to be willing to divulge, because in that's going to create a freedom within you to get it out of you. Number one, it's going to create a level of respect and trust and connection in your relationship you can't even fathom, because the ability to trust people with you and your heart and your soul is the greatest form of intimacy you can have. Is allowing somebody to see so deeply into you that they can feel all the parts of you. And I know a lot of men are scared of that. And I'm here to tell you, like, it's the best thing you can ever allow. This is coming from somebody who loves like the idea of emotional vulnerability, and emotional connection, and emotional intelligence. But I preach this to guys a lot of times. Like, you can play the lone wolf for so long until you realize you've chased everybody away, or you can decide to open your heart and let somebody get close so you can live this life not alone.
Yeah, and that's, one of those things where it's like, I work with a lot of women on their own selves in this, and how they show up in their relationship, and being able to lead themselves as the conscious queen energy, and the lighthouse energy, to really step into, being in that feminine space. And for me, for the longest time, I struggled with that a good bit, because it was like I could see things, I could feel things, and us women, we're very intuitive, and we can see and feel
Mhm.
things. And a lot of times we see and feel things outside of ourselves, and we have these lens or these filters that we run things through, that wind up being almost like judgments or expectations or control, or needing their man to be a certain thing so they feel safe. And I did this for the longest time, and not realizing that. in that I was holding these energies and expectations, but I wasn't actually leading myself fully on the back end, even though I would not necessarily tell you that back then. I would say I'm, leading myself. I got it all together. But like there's threads in these shadows that run where we're not necessarily, or I wasn't being emotionally vulnerable, or I wasn't seeing the spaces that I could be open more in my feminine energy and fuel to fuel not only my own self, because I would be in alignment with my truth, alignment with not these like armored patterns. I would be prioritizing my own self, but then also it poured into you. And it's also the same on the other end, where
Yes.
it's like the moments that I'm struggling or I'm dealing with certain things, like being able to go to you and be emotional and not have you want to fix me or fix it or go into like this managing mode. It's like truly being able to sit and just listen to me and hold me and ground the energy in and have me feel safe in my body has been drastically different than before, where either one, it's like there's like this fix it that comes in, or there's like this my emotions then mean something about you, and then you get your emotions involved, and there was no grounded safety, there was no regulation of the nervous system.
Yes.
um Moments that I was going through things I didn't even feel comfortable coming to you and telling you or to opening up to you, I would just either deal with it on my own or push it down, or and all these things are like serving these wounded patterns in ourselves, and it's not actually taking care of yourself, and it's not showing up in the relationship to give the other person the space to be of the support, and understanding how you can play a role in the other person's mental and physical health. And we can, when we have the priority of ourselves first and foremost, but then we also see and take on the energy and the priority of like, is my person putting themselves a priority? Are they,
Yes.
able to have the space to work on their own frequency, take care of themselves? How am I feeling when they're doing that? Are they coming to me, and am I thinking about their mental and emotional health when we're navigating life together? Or is it just like, I need them to be this, I expect them to be this? Oh, you're going to go to the gym for 2 hours, what about this and this and this? Or, oh, you're going to be doing this and you're going to be taking care of yourself. Now it's triggering me because I'm eating like bonbons at night or whatever it may be. Like there's these spaces where it's like we can utilize our relationship to be a trigger or
Mhm.
to be a witness, but holding yourselves accountable, and understanding that your lifestyle that you're living is either matching the identity you claim you want or matching the identity that you actually are.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
there's so often that we can say that we want a life within ourselves. We want a life with our partner. We want a life where we feel like we have it all. And then we have to really look in the mirror and ask ourselves, are we just speaking what we want? Are we speaking, abundance? Are we speaking who we're being? Are we speaking that we're doing all these things? Or are we actually living in alignment with that? Are we living that? Or are we chronically like gorging out on social media and doom scrolling? Are we not getting the sleep that we need? Are we not moving our bodies? Are we not nourishing ourselves properly? Are we just, taking a pill or taking this and not actually changing the things that we desire? Are we, you know, drinking alcohol more abundantly than we desire to, or that we know we should be doing?
Mhm.
Are we skipping things that, you know, are we going to quick dopamine hits that make us feel good, yet not actually doing the work? Are
Yeah.
we listening to a podcast? Are we taking a course and feeling real good about like what we're learning, but then not actually embodying the changes and doing the work to actually shift the things? There's so many things that we can say that there's gaps, but like when we come down to that, our frequency is everything, and you look at what you're consuming, not only physically consuming, like what you're eating, what you're drinking, what you're putting in your body, but you look at what you're mentally consuming, like what you're allowing into your field. I talked about that this morning, where it's like your algorithm is totally like primed to you, and like what are you allowing in your algorithm of your life? What are you allowing in the algorithm of your social media that you're consuming all the time? Are you focused on the things that aren't? Are you focused on the things that, need to be fixed? Are you focused on the ways that you should be doing better? Or are you actually doing better? Are you actually putting the phone down? Are you actually eating healthy? Are you actually leading yourself and putting your frequency and your energy at the forefront? And then also doing that for your partner. Are you holding your partner to somewhat accountability of them doing that as well? Are you fueling their highest self? Are you giving them the space to take care of themselves? Are you, not saying like, men, let's not go like say, hey, did you like, should you be eating that? Like that's not going to go over very well. But it's like, are we, um, and vice versa, right? But
Yeah.
it's like no judgments, but are we holding the leadership of an embodiment of our own self that then shines the light for other people to rise to or to be inspired by or to be motivated in? And are we holding each other to our highest frequency self? We can always talk about being your higher self emotionally or how you're responding or showing up in your power or being successful, but are you holding yourself and your partner accountable to the highest frequency of your energy of your health and how you're
Mhm.
fueling and feeding your body?
100%. I think and I want to piggyback off something you said a little earlier. It's like when we're talking about pouring into yourself, we're not talking about being hyper focused on the misery of yourself. Because
No, 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 no,
I
no.
think a lot of people do that. Like they're like, I got so much of this going on, and this is happening, and woe is me, and this and that, and then she's doing this, and then they're doing that, and the government does this, and then they just start hyper focusing on all the things
Yeah,
that are contributing to the way that they feel currently instead of focusing on the things that will move them toward the way they want to feel in the future.
that's
And
right.
a lot of times you have to, in order for that to happen, you have to serve and be willing to serve something bigger than yourself outside of yourself. And sometimes that's a bigger version of you. Like, hey, I want to serve a bigger
Yeah.
identity. That means I'm going to choose today to operate like I want my 5 year away self to feel. It
Hmm.
might be to serve my relationship at a bigger level, might be to serve my clients at a bigger level, might be need to serve my kids, my family, my friends, and serve something outside of my own misery, serve something outside of my own woe is me victimhood mentality, because the greatest version of you is bigger than yourself. You're just a grain of sand on the beach of life. And if you're constantly focused on your grain of sand, you miss the beach
Yeah.
and you miss you miss the beauty of the beach because this one grain of sand is pissing me off. But there's a lot of sand out there. There's a lot of us to serve. There's a lot of us to grow into. There's a lot of us to expand. And if we're so hyper focused on the things that make us miserable, the things that make us stressed, the things that make us feel victimish, then we're never going to serve anything other than that. And like getting back to yourself and serving your frequency is, how do I become the standard, the example of the life I want to live, the relationship I want to have, the friends I want to be surrounded by, the business I want to build? How do I become the example? And that means my energy, my personal self care, the way I lead myself, the way I show up to the world every day and take that guy into the world, or as you take the woman into the world. Like, how does that align with the life I say I want? Because I
Hmm.
could say I want a life, and you said that. I could say I want this life, but I'm living in accordance with an identity that will never achieve it because that identity is so self focused on misery and what's not there that we can't even create or be the example of what could be there.
Yeah, that's right. And it starts with getting really honest with ourselves. And we had to do that. We
Yes.
had to do a little check in. And we do this often. I know we've talked about it before on the podcast, but me and Jim have weekly meetings and then monthly check ins and then quarterly check ins. And, some of that obviously is our health, it's our relationship, it's our business, it's our parenting, it's, where we're at mentally, physically, spiritually. And we had a check in, I guess it was kind of towards the end of May. And it was like, okay, we're not necessarily in alignment in this area. And, that's kind of where it started. And then we really immersed ourselves in vacations and kids being home and, getting our environment kind of where we want it. And there's still like obviously things that we want to accomplish, but we got a lot done in our environment and taking care of our home, doing some upgrades we needed to do, deep cleaning and decluttering, cleaning out closets and drawers. And we just got really intentional about the outside, that when it's chaotic it feels just a reflection of where you're kind of at inside somewhat.
Yeah.
Or it can be the opposite, where your environment then creates an energy within yourself. And so we did that, and we went down this pathway of like, okay, what does it look like for us to really truly get what I call, and I say often, your frequency on fleek. And we've done so many powerful things with our own identity and within our relationship, and even in our purpose. And it was like there was these areas where it's like, yes, but there's these energetic things that still feel like a kind of quote unquote weighing you down, or we don't feel optimal, we don't feel like our best selves. And we realized that some of that was, we were neglecting this area. And so after, the vacations and the kind of energetic decluttering and creating a different energy and space, we're like, okay, we're going to commit to ourselves first. And we always kind of do our morning routines. That's not something we've ever let up truly. Like, we do our reading, we do our journaling, we do our visualizations, our prayer and all of that. But it's like, okay, what does this look like to get our frequency 100% back on fleek? And so we both have committed, ourselves to a challenge.
Yeah.
Coming off of July 4th week, we're back in the groove, we're back home. We don't have anything, it feels like, we have like 3 weeks before the kids go back to school, but it feels like summer's kind of winding down in that way, where normally like for about 4 to 5 weeks we're just go 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 go. But it's like we're coming back into it, we're like, okay, this has to be a priority for us. And when we look at the second half of 2026, because we're there, guys. I mean, I don't know if you noticed, but like, where did the first half go? I have no idea. But when we look at the second half of 2026, it's like, okay, now there's a reevaluation. Like, what's going well? Where are we like thriving? Where are we like have things in motion and things are moving and grooving? Where are we letting the ball drop? And where we need to recalibrate and focus? Where's our energy? Where's our mindset? And when we kind of did this check-in after we immersed ourselves in all the goodness of family vacation and all of that, this is what came forward. And we really recognized that our frequency, our health, where we're at mentally and physically, is the most important thing going into this second half of the year, and really pouring in and prioritizing that. And it brought up conversations about what starts happening when we don't. And so we wanted to bring this podcast to you today, obviously, because it's something that we are deeply passionate about. We've noticed this within our own self and our own life and our own relationship and our business and our health for so long. And it's like, this is where we're at. And we know that these changes and shifts and reprioritizing the balance and putting ourselves first and our frequency at the forefront, everything else outside of us always comes back into a more divine alignment when we do that. And so we both have committed ourselves to a challenge for the next 30 days to jumpstart, the kind of second half of 2026, to get ourselves back in the frequency that we want to be in our health, mental, physical, emotional health, and putting ourselves as a priority as individuals, and then supporting each other and doing that together. So we're back to like our evening walks together, and we always have the most profound conversations when we as a couple, decide to do those walks together. And we're back to, some commits in the gym and going to the gym together, sometimes during the week. And um allowing ourselves to commit together also holds you accountable to some degree, but it also
Yeah.
allows for that space of connection. and being healthy together and putting forth things. And obviously, I've been on a hardcore eating regimen for quite some time, which I will continue and probably tweak and move a few things and get Jim on board with me in some of
Oh,
these
hell no.
on some of these health
Meat and
things.
taters. If it don't have meat and taters, I don't know if I want it.
But just really supporting each other and what we feel like we want to commit to. And it's not forcing, it's not pushing. Like I said, like I've been on a regimen. I'm gonna dial down some things that I would never expect him to get on because I have different needs and different spaces and different focuses of my health in this time. And I don't need him to be on the same thing as me for me to commit to myself.
Mm-mm.
And but also hold, or he can hold himself accountable to his goals, and I can support him in holding himself accountable to what he wants to do for his self. And that's what we've kind of done. So it's not like we're sitting down and saying, okay, we're committing to this challenge exactly the same, doing the exact same things. It's more so like, what do you see as an individual in your own self that you want to commit to? What feels good for you? How can I support you? And then we're doing that together within our own selves.
Mhm.
And there's a list of things that I'm committing to in my 30-day challenge, and I'm sure it will, obviously continue past 30 days, but it might be a little bit more regimented and routine and strict, to create that, that habit again in certain ways. And then you're doing the same, within your own self. And we're going to hold each other accountable. We're also going to share, some of this, as we continue to go on and what we're doing and how it's working. And so we just want to encourage you in this episode to really take a look at your own frequency, because you can be putting yourself in all the places. You can be trying to shift and change all the things. You can be, going after certain goals, but it's like at the end of the day, it's the being doing all those things. And where are you prioritizing your own individual frequency, your own individual self that is impacting you, your relationships, your business, your money, your parenting, how you feel? And are you in a space of regulating your stress? Are you intentional about where your focus is going, where your energy is pouring out? And are you leading yourself as a conscious queen or a conscious king to be able to optimize your own energy bucket so that you can be more in all the areas and actually
Mhm.
get what you desire?
Absolutely, and be able to build the person that holds the life that you say you want. Right?
Yeah.
It's cool to dream. It's
Yeah.
cool to have goals. What's better is building the person that can actually hold those things. And like,
Yeah.
hey, this is my reality now. And I think we both realize like in order for us to have the business, the empire we want to build and really to do the family adventure life that we want to live, it requires a bigger version of us energetically, a bigger version of us health wise, and a better version of us. And a better version of us in regards to the standards we hold for how we operate in our day to day life, whether it be in the house, whether it be in our relationship, with ourselves, with our kids. And if we're not holding ourselves to those standards, then we're dreaming and we're not actually living. And
Hmm.
we're big on trying to live.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're also, we run our communities, the Conscious Queens and the Conscious King space, and we hold, these energies in there. And we have groups of people that are holding each other accountable and supporting each other. It's always better when you have people moving in a direction that you want to go, and you have people that are, leaders in that space and embodied in what they're doing. And this is just a thread of what we do in our containers. But I know we're also running some challenges for ourselves, and we're inviting other people to join in, with us and commit to challenging themselves and commit to things that you're going to do to fuel your energy and your frequency. So if it's something you really want to dive into, you want some accountability in, you want other people that are doing that, we have a couple of opportunities to do that. You can check out the call or the show notes to be able to tap into those spaces. And if you're ready to just become a different level version of yourself as a conscious queen or a conscious king in your life, in your relationships, in your parenting, in your business, to really amplify intimacy, impact, income, and influence. um, Check out our spaces, because these are going to up level you in a whole nother way. And it's not about fixing certain areas of your life or going all in on, the strategies of every area of your life. It's becoming the person, the leader, the emotional regulator, to actually attract what you want in every area of your life, because you can have it all. And we deeply believe that. So, sending you so much love. If you're interested in any of those things, reach out, and we'll see you on the socials, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye, guys.
Bye.